Hi there, folks. Sean Broderick, and I'm here in Rancho Santa Fe, California, and I'm having a fascinating discussion about phosphate. Now, when it comes to mining, you may think about gold and silver and stuff like that. But let me tell you can't leave phosphate out of the picture. Why? Because the world needs it like you wouldn't believe. And to give us an overview of the global macro picture on what's driving the big phosphate market around the world, we have Brian Ostroff. He's the newly appointed CEO of Arianne Phosphate. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And if you could speak to my subscribers and just clue them in and what's going on in the global market.
Sure. Well, as you point out, phosphate, and as most of your subscribers probably know, it's one of the three nutrients used in fertilizer,
right?
Potash and nitrogen being the other two.
Exactly.
I think a common mistake sometimes what investors make is that they assume because it's all used in fertilizer, it's all the same stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really not. All the nutrients have their supply-demand dynamic. So, in the case of phosphate, what's very appealing to us is phosphate's basically in a global deficiency. North America runs a deficit. South America runs a deficit. Western Europe runs a deficit. Asia runs a deficit. The whole world is in deficit. And that's all made up from the Middle East and North Africa.
Mm-hmm. They have huge phosphate mines there.
They do. I mean, Morocco is by far the largest player when it comes to phosphate. Mm-hmm. They're actually 4 times bigger in the phosphate market than Saudi Arabia is in the oil market. But
wow.
What's important to understand, of course, if one's looking at security of supply, look, Morocco is the largest. Tunisia used to be the second biggest, but Arab Spring has knocked out about 80%. Jordan, Syria used to be a producer, Egypt, Algeria. I mean, this is all a big issue. And
all the world's garden spots, right?
Yeah, exactly. And for Americans, your dependence on imported rock is going to double over the next 5 years.
Because we need phosphate. It's not like you can do without it. That's a cornerstone of like modern agriculture, right?
Right. And look, at the end of the day, it's called a food chain. And as we were all taught, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Mm-hmm. And the weak link in our food chain is phosphate.
Right.
And so, a key takeaway on phosphate, you would start off by saying mining and gold. And gold's had a pretty good run here. Mm-hmm. And it could well continue. I don't know. I know that next week, I want to eat. And so do 7 billion other people, regardless of the gold price or regardless of whether China grows at 6% or 7%. Mm-hmm. And so you have this constant demand. Demand for phosphate grows at 2 to 3% every year. And so, one of the next issues when you look at phosphate is, so where is that going to come from? And what is, of course, not helpful to those who don't have it is Saudi Arabia and Morocco are scheduled to again be the largest, provide the largest increase in phosphate production. But here's a key takeaway. 85% of the world's phosphate mines are owned, they're integrated into fertilizer companies.
Right. And
so, the example I always give is, you have a guy and he sells wool. He sells wool to the suit maker for $50, and that suit maker costs him $25 to turn it into a suit, and he sells it to the wholesaler for $275. Mm-hmm. And he puts the $200 in his pocket until the guy with the wool figures it out. And he says, I'm not selling you my wool for $50. I'm selling it for $200. And if not, you're out of business. And so, Saudi Arabia is looking to increase their production by 8 million tons, but that's just for their own fertilizer factories. That doesn't help Potash Corp or Agrium or Mosaic, who all import phosphate rock.
So what you're saying is the large manufacturers need more phosphate input. They need the raw phosphate input so they can make more fertilizer.
Absolutely. Right? And the challenge is if you're not fully integrated and you have to buy your phosphate rock from a third party, and then you turn it into MAP and DAP, which are your finished phosphate fertilizers, your ability to make any type of reasonable margin is really challenged.
So the hunt is on for phosphate supplies in secure locations that can also feed into these companies that are hungry for the raw materials.
Phosphate rock was one of the few commodities in 2015 that were actually higher,
Mm-hmm.
and the demand for phosphate rock is going to continue.
It keeps growing. Okay. Thanks very much, folks, for tuning in. Thanks for speaking to my subscribers about this, because this is a kind of topic that is very important but not really covered in the media very much. So it's good to get that kind of insight on that. And so you folks stay tuned. I'll have a lot more for you from California.